Facebook Lina dan subscribe channel ini ya.
The origin of English language. Introduction. The English language was born thanks to the Germanic invaders who came to the British Isles from what is now the northwest of Germany and the Netherlands, mainly called Holland, which is a mere province of this European kingdom, in addition to those of southern Denmark. At first, this language was composed of a set of dialects, among which the western section stood out. Hence, it can be assured that the current English is in fact a conglomerate of influence from Scandinavia and continental Europe, in particular from France. All these migrations provide around the extinction of the Old Celtic language and the Latin that was spoken in some cities. It is true that English, in its oldest phases, incorporated words from the original Celtic dialects of Britain, which still remain in places like Scotland and Wales, as well as Latin, the official language of the Roman Empire, which had Britannia as one of its provinces. It shall not be forgotten that Romanization had a great influence in the province of Britain, but it is also necessary to go back more than 3,500 years to know when all these expressions were incorporated into English. Of the ancient native Celtic language, only Welsh remains as the Cornish language. Cornish language disappeared in the 20th century. The Indo-European family of language. Our English vocabulary is not something to be studied in isolation, but is related in one way or another to many of the other languages of the world. The proper beginning for us, therefore, is to view the place of English in perspective, amid the many tongues of mankind. The students who have studied German undoubtedly have noticed a remarkable similarity between that language and their own. The German word milk is very close in sound to the English milk. Likewise, the German wasser and English water, Brotan and bread, Fleischan, fleece, closely resemble each other, not to mention a great many additional examples. Perhaps we can see the similarity best if we place side by side in systematic form the words from mother, father, and brother as they appear in various tongues. You can see at the PPT. We have said that the similarities between this language was not to be explained in terms of borrowing. The cause of their resemblance lies rather in the fact that they are descendants of a single parent's language, thus most of the major language of Europe, and some of the language of Asia, belong to one family known as the Indo-European family of language. The original Indo-European parents' language became extinct long before written records existed. It was spoken by a prehistoric people whose homeland was somewhere in Eastern Europe. The location of their origin, however, remains an unsolved problem.
That language is constantly changing. The language of each group began to evolve in its own peculiar fashion. Eventually, a number of distinct dialects arose. Among them are Teutonic, Italic, Hellenic, Celtic, Balto-Slavic, Indo-Iranian, Armenian, and Albanian. Jadi meskipun bahasa itu berubah-ubah, tapi masing-masing kelompok memiliki ciri khasnya yang berbeda-beda, sehingga memunculkan berbagai macam dialek yang berbeda. Di antaranya itu seperti tadi, Teutonic, Italic, Hellenic, Celtic, Peltoslavia, Indo-Iran, Armenia, dan Albania. At the time of First Elizabeth, there were almost 7 million native speakers of English. There were very few non-native speakers of English. At the time of Second Elizabeth, the number of native speakers of English had increased to some 3,050 million. That was seen as a more useful language to learn than English, even by the time that First Elizabeth came to the throne of England. The spirit of English has started. An English-speaking area had been established around Dublin in Ireland within the was called the Pale. Jadi pada masa Elizabeth yang pertama itu sudah banyak 7 juta penutur asli bahasa Inggris. Kemudian pada masa Elizabeth kedua itu jumlah native speakernya itu semakin meningkat, yaitu 350 juta. Dan pada masa itu bahasa Belanda dipandang sebagai bahasa yang paling penting daripada bahasa Inggris. Kemudian setelah Ratu Elizabeth yang pertama itu dilantik, kemudian bahasa Inggris semakin luas disebarkan ke seluruh dunia. Yang pertama itu ada pemukiman di daerah Dublin di Irlandia di wilayah yang disebut Pale. Then the first years of Elizabeth's reign saw further expansionist moves. In 1603, with the death of First Elizabeth, James of Scotland has also become James of England. The Scotland and England were merged politically in Great Britain. This had of effect of spreading English influence into Scotland. Jadi tahun-tahun pertama pemerintahan Elizabeth yang pertama itu ekspansionis itu lebih lanjut. Pada tahun 1603 saat kematian Elizabeth yang pertama itu, James yang ke-6 dari Skotlandia itu dilantik menjadi James yang pertama dari Inggris. Dan Skotlandia dan Inggris secara politis digabungkan menjadi Inggris Raya. Hal ini berdampak pada penyebaran pengaruh Inggris ke Skotlandia. And then the first lasting settlement in North America was established at Jamestown in Virginia. The settlers who formed the permanent population in the area were largely from the English West Country. The traces of their varieties of English can still be found in North American English generally and the Eastern Seaboard dialect of Virginia in particular. Jadi pemukiman abadi pertama di Amerika Utara didirikan oleh Jamestown dari Virginia. Para pemukim yang membentuk populasi permanen di daerah ini sebagian besar berasal dari Inggris bagian barat, dan jejak ragam bahasa mereka masih dapat ditemukan di Amerika Utara pada umumnya dan dialek pesisir timur Virginia pada khususnya. Last, the next major settlement in North America took place in 16 and 20 when the Mayflower, carrying people from the eastern counties of England, failed to reach Virginia and landed in present-day Massachusetts, where they founded the town of Plymouth. Canada was ceded to the British by the French. Canada then revived only the French-speaking areas. This was an important step because it allowed a British foothold in North America to be maintained after the American Declaration Independence in America.
Okay, next. So, by the opening of the 19th century, English had spread to every corner of the world. And in the course of the 19th and 20th centuries, the number of speakers of the language and the language one prestige grew and grew. In 1800, the population of the United States was about 5.3 million. By 1900, it had grown to 76 million. By the close of the 20th century, it was heading for 250 million. The growth was achieved by spreading on of more land and by accepting immigrants from elsewhere in the world. Many immigrants come from the British Isles as a result of the economic reform and other related events that were going on there. There are two major events which an effect on the kind of immigrants from the British Islands. We took the English out of the world. The first was the high clearances, as a result of which English had been imposed in much of the highlands. And the two factors of population growth and reduced access to land for workforce people, the immigrant, the same was true in Ireland, whose population 1,841 was over 8 million, and the population of Iran has never recorded in the course of the 19th century nearly 5 million Irish people immigrant to the United States. Into the late 19th century, immigrants from the British Islands to Canada, the United States, Australia, and New Zealand were being driven by the same motivation of lack of land and opportunity. The feeling that the British were right and the were doing everyone a favor by bringing them democracy, bureaucracy, Christianity, literacy, and the English language become extraordinarily well established. From the time the U.S. entered the First World War in 1915, right through to the person the U.S. has been one of the major military power in the world. The economic and military might has left behind in traders and soldiers who have had to learn English to do the job properly, because industry exploration and their job properly, because industry exploration and military demands need and contribution to learning. Much of scientific discourse came to be carved out primarily in English.
Reason for learning English today. In today's global world, the importance of English can be denied and ignored since English is the great common language spoken universally. With the help for emerging technology, English has been playing the main part in several sectors, including medicine, engineering, and education. English is a vital language for all kinds of professional and personal goals. To learn English requires constant practice and passion. Knowledge of English is necessary if someone wants to come up in life. It is the major window of the modern world. Based on International Journal of Trend in Scientific Research and Development, There are several factors that make the English language essential to communication in our current time. First, English is the international common thing. First of all, English is the most common foreign language. This means that two people who come from different countries, for example, a Mexican and a Sri Lanka, usually use as a common language to communicate. That's why everyone needs to learn the language in order to get in touch on an international level. Speaking it will help you communicate with people from countries all over the world, not just English speaking ones. The second is education. English is also necessary for the field of education. In many countries, children are taught and encouraged to learn English as a second language. Even in countries where it is not an official language, we will find many curriculums in science, engineering, and higher education field are written in English because it is the dominant language in the sciences. Most of the research and studies you find in any given scientific field will be written in it as well. Then research make learning English easy. Although many Although many people think that is very difficult and confusing, English is actually the easiest language of the world to learn because there are so many research available. As soon as you decide you want to learn, there are thousands of research on the internet and in bookstore. Then is travel and business. With good understanding and a communication in English, we can travel around the globe, around the world, because it is the international language for foreigners. It's easy to get assistance and help in every part of the world. English is the dominant business language, and it has become almost a necessity for people to speak English if they are to enter a global workforce. Research from all over the world shows that cross-border business communication is most often conducted in English, and many international companies expect employees to be fluent in English. Companies who want to function at an international level only consider their staff well educated if they are good English speakers, writers, and readers. The last is it's really flexible. Non-native English speakers who learn it as a second language often comment on how many ways they are to say things. That's because English doesn't discriminate. You can use it however you like. Countries like Singapore have taken this concept to heart, inventing an entirely new type of English called Singlish that has absorbed phase of other language like Chinese and Malay. English is one of the most used and dominating language in the world. This is having its impact on every field of work. Undoubtedly, English plays a much greater role in the world that it is inevitable for people to ignore it fully. It has a bright future, it helps connect us in a global world, and it can also help us in our personal and professional life. Although learning English can be challenging and time consuming, we can see that it's also very valuable to learn and can relate many opportunities. Okay, maybe that's enough from us. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.